What if the most creative version of you has been awake this whole time, just waiting for you to stop trying so hard to find it? Because what I'm about to tell you is not what you've heard before. It's not a productivity hack. It's not a vision board. And it has nothing to do with waking up at 5 a.m. There is a version of you that creates effortlessly, that thinks in colors and ideas and connections that other people haven't made yet. You've felt that version before, maybe briefly, maybe years ago. And somewhere along the way, something buried it. A teacher who marked your work wrong, a job that rewarded sameness, a voice in your head that started finishing your sentences before you could. That version of you isn't gone. It's been suffocating under everything you've been told creativity is supposed to look like. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 3 things. The first one goes against everything the internet has told you about becoming more creative. The second is the thing that separates people who talk about creativity from people who actually live inside it. And the third is the unlock. The creative version of you, not a goal, but a natural state. Let's start with the thing nobody wants to say. You are not uncreative. You are overstimulated. And those 2 things have been pretending to be the same problem for years. Every productivity guru, every creative coach, every viral thread about how to be more creative tells you to consume more, read more books, watch more films, fill your brain with more inputs, more references, more inspiration. And so you do. You scroll endlessly. You save posts you'll never go back to. You bookmark articles and add things to watch lists and build entire Pinterest boards that somehow make you feel more stuck, not less. Because here's the truth that almost no one says out loud. Creativity does not live in input. It lives in the space between inputs. The neuroscientist Marcus Raschel studied something called the default mode network, the part of the brain that activates when you stop focusing and let your mind wander. What he found was almost unbelievable. The brain doesn't rest when you're not doing anything. It becomes more active. It starts making connections, surfacing patterns, solving problems you didn't even know you were working on. That wandering, seemingly unproductive state, that is where your best ideas are born. But we've scheduled that out of our lives entirely. So the first thing I want you to do, and this is the step that feels wrong before it feels right, is to deliberately create boredom. Not mindfulness, not meditation, not journaling, just boredom. A walk without your phone, a drive without a podcast. 10 minutes in the morning where you stare at a wall and let your brain do whatever it wants. That's not laziness. That is the soil that creativity grows in, and clearing space is only part of it, because you can create all the boredom in the world and still never let anything out. And what's stopping you from letting it out? That's what the second step is really about. The creative version of you doesn't need permission to be good, it needs permission to be bad. This is what the most prolific creators in the world have known, sometimes consciously, sometimes painfully, that the rest of us haven't accepted yet. The version of you that's buried isn't waiting for the right idea. It's waiting for you to stop killing ideas before they can breathe. Ira Glass, the creator of This American Life, described a gap between your taste and your ability. He said that when you're starting out, your taste is already good. You know what great work looks like, but your output hasn't caught up yet. And that gap is what kills most creative people. Not lack of talent, not lack of ideas. The gap between what they can see and what they can make, and the refusal to sit inside that gap long enough to close it. The people who come out the other side are not the most talented. They're the ones who kept making bad work anyway. Elizabeth Gilbert spent years writing stories that never sold before she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. David Bowie reinvented himself so many times that the reinventions themselves became the art. They weren't afraid of being wrong. They were more afraid of being silent. So the second step is this. Make something this week that you have no intention of showing anyone. Not a draft, not a prototype, a permission slip, a piece of work that exists only to prove to your nervous system that making things doesn't have to be terrifying. Write the bad poem, record the rough song, paint the ugly painting. Let it be the proof that you are someone who creates. Because once you've moved from someone who wants to create to someone who does, even privately, everything shifts. And the third step is what makes that shift permanent. Identity is the last unlock. Most people spend their whole lives trying to become creative, and that one word, trying, is the exact thing keeping them from it. Because you cannot try your way into an identity. You can only live your way into one. There's a principle in behavioral psychology called identity-based change. The idea that the most durable changes in human behavior happen not when we chase outcomes, but when we shift how we see ourselves. You don't try to run more. You become a runner, and runners run. You don't try to be more creative. You become someone who creates, and creators create. Twyla Tharp, one of the most prolific choreographers in American history, wrote about this in The Creative Habit. She woke at 5:30 every morning, not waiting to feel inspired, but to get in a cab to the gym. The creativity wasn't in the idea. It was in the ritual that said, I am this kind of person. I show up every day, whether or not I feel it. That's the final step. Build one small, repeatable ritual that signals to yourself, not the world, just yourself, that you are a creative person. 10 minutes of free writing before your day starts. A specific playlist that tells your brain, this is the time when we make things. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you do it consistently enough that it stops being a habit and starts being who you are. Because the creative version of you was never missing. It was never buried. It was never stolen. Even on the days you gave up on it, there was never a day it gave up on you. It was just waiting for you to stop performing creativity and start living it. To stop asking if you're creative enough and start acting like someone who already knows the answer.